I am Debbie McKeever, founder and owner of Strong and Healthy Temple. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my series on the wilderness experience. I am kicking off part 4 where I'll be talking about the character of Jacob, also known as Israel. And Jacob is the grandson of Abraham, whom I talked about in part 3. And I want to start off in Jacob's experience from where he had just taken the blessing from his older brother Esau, who was actually entitled to the blessing. And Esau had promised to kill Jacob after their father Isaac died. So their mother Rebecca actually helped Jacob to escape, and he went to stay with their uncle, who is Rebecca's brother Laban. And Laban was a trickster. He represents those people in our lives that are relationship vampires. Their sole purpose is to use us and to benefit from us, and really the only person that they care about is themselves. And they're very crafty. And so Laban, like the relationship vampires in our own lives, recognized the anointing that was on Jacob's life, and he sought to benefit from it. So after a month of living with Laban, he offered to pay Jacob wages for working for him. And so what Jacob wanted was to marry Laban's younger daughter, Rachel. And so he agreed to work for Laban for 7 years for Rachel's hand in marriage. And at the end of the 7 years, of course, Laban tricked him and gave him his oldest daughter, Leah, instead. And so this represents the point in our lives where sometimes things happen to us that we feel like we don't necessarily deserve. And so instead of, getting mad or pissed off, we have to persevere and just keep going in order to get the thing that we were promised. And one other thing that I did want to point out, and this is probably a hard pill for us to swallow, is Jacob represents that part of us where deep down inside, although we're not consciously aware of it, it represents that part of us that needs validation. And so when these tricksters and these relationship vampires come along with their smooth words and their flattery and all these different things, it soothes our soul, and that's how they're able to suck us in and trick us, because we're still undeveloped in that area of validating ourselves, even though we think we are. And so that's what that represents. So anyway, Jacob ended up, he did call Laban out, and Laban, he did what these tricksters in our lives do. He gaslighted and made excuses and all those different things. And Jacob ended up having to work another 7 years just to get the thing that he had promised him in the first place. And that's what happens in our lives, is that we end up having to go the extra mile for the thing that we were promised in the first place, because all these people are doing is just sucking us up and draining us. And so he ended up marrying Rachel, and long story short, he decided that it was time for him to leave Laban's house. And so he told him that he wanted to take his wives and his children, and that he wanted to leave. Well, of course, Laban didn't want him to leave. And when these relationship vampires come into your lives and attach themselves to you, they don't want to let you go, not because they care about you, so don't make that mistake, but because they can no longer benefit from you if you're no longer in their lives. And so they do whatever it takes to stay attached to you. So he used all of his smooth words and tricks to try to get Jacob to stay, but Jacob wanted to leave. And the agreement was that all he wanted was the sheep and the goats and stuff with the with the speckled spots and the dark ones, as his wages, because he reminded Laban, I worked for you for all these years. You changed my wages 10 times. He had done all these malicious things, which Jacob reminded him of. And, he pretty much deserved to move on with his own life. But of course, being the person that a relationship vampire is, he had his sons, even though he agreed to it, he had his sons to remove all of the animals with the speckled spots and the dark ones. And so Jacob was patient, and he got still, and in a dream, God gave to him a method for him to create sheep and goat with speckled spots and dark. And that's what will happen to us if we'll get still and connect with our I amness. Don't start seeking revenge. Just trust God to give you a plan and follow that plan to the letter. And that's what Jacob did. He didn't do partial obedience like his grandfather Abram. He followed the instructions to the letter, and as a result, it produced all kinds of speckled sheep and goats and dark ones, and he ended up being a very rich man. So when we are obedient to follow God's plan, not only will we get what we've been promised, but we get more than. And so he did end up, leaving Laban's home. And so I'll fast forward to when Jacob wrestled with God. And some say an angel of God. But he wrestled with God. And what ended up happening is that while he was wrestling, his hip got broken. But even though God had broken his hip, or the angel of God had broken his hip, he figured, I've broken this man's hip, so now he's just going to go away. But he wouldn't. He said, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. And that's how we have to be. We have to be so persistent in our faith that no matter what physical circumstances come along to shake our faith and to shake us up and shake us down and to make us turn back and turn away, that we have to be so persistent that we say, we're not going to let go until I get what I was promised. So anyway, that is a wrap for part 4. I hope that you are enjoying this. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Share the videos with your friends, family, and network. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Make it a fantastic afternoon.